One Autumn Night by Martin Gorski. Once in autumn I happened to be in a very unpleasant, inconvenient position. In the town where I had just arrived, where I knew not a soul, I found myself without a farthing in my pocket, without a night lodging. Having sold during the first few days every part of my costume without which it was still positive to go about, I passed from the town into the quarter called Yate, where the steamship wharf, a quarter which during the navigation season fermented with spontaneous laborious life, but now was silent and deserted, where we were the last days of October, dragging my feet along the moist sand, and obstinately, scrupulously it with the desire to discover in it any sort of fragment of food. I wandered alone among the deserted buildings and warehouses, and thought how good it would be to get a full meal. In our present state of culture, hunger of the mind is more quickly satisfied than hunger of the body. You wander about the street, you are surrounded by the buildings not bad looking from the outside in. You safely say it, not so badly furnished inside. And the sight of them may excite you within stimulating ideas about agriculture, highland, and many other wise and high-flying subjects. You may meet warmly, neatly dressed folks, all very polite, and turning away from you tactfully, not wishing eventually to notice the lamentable fact of your existence. Well, well, the mind of a hungry man is always better nourished and healthier than the mind of a well-fed man. And there you have a situation from which you may draw on a very ingenious conclusion in favor of the ill-fed. The evening was approaching. The rain was falling, and the wind blew violently from the north. It whistled into the empty booths and shops, blew into the patterned window panes of the taverns, and whipped into foam of wavelets of the river, which splashed noisily on the sandy shore, casting high their white crests, racing one after another into the dim distance, and leaping impetuously over one another's shoulder. It seemed as if the river felt the prime family of winter, and was running at random away from the fetter of ice which the north wind might well have plunged upon her that very night. The sky was heavy and dark. Down from its swift incessantly scattering visible drops of rain, and the melancholy and legacy in nature all around me was emphasized by a couple of battered and misshapen willow trees, and a boat bottom sword that was fastened to their roots. The overturned canoe in its battered keel, and the miserable old tree rippled by the cold wind. Everything around me was bankrupt, foreign, and dead, and the sky flows with undryable tears. Everything around was waste and gloomy. It seemed as if everything were dead, leaving me alone among the living, and for me also a cold death waited. I was then 18 years old, a good time. I walked and walked along the cold, wet sand, making my shattered teeth warble in honor of the cold and hunger, when suddenly, as I was carefully searching for something to eat behind one of the empty crates, I proceeded behind it, crouching on the ground. A figure in women's clothes, damp with the rain and clinging fast to her stewing shoulder. Standing over her, I watched to see what she was doing. It appeared that she was digging a trench in the sand with her hand, digging away under one of the crates. "Why are you doing that?" I asked, crouching down on my heels quite close to her. She gave a little scream and was quickly on her legs again. Now she stood there staring at me, with her wide open gray eyes full of terror. I proceeded that it was a girl of my own age, with a very pleasant face embellished unfortunately by 3 large blue marks. This belied her, although these blue marks had been distributed with remarkable sense of proportion, one at a time, and all were in equal size, 2 under the eyes, and one a little bigger on the forehead, just over the bridge of the nose. This symmetry was evidently the work of an artist, well inured to the business of spoiling of human Velasquez. Don't know how to say that, but the girl looked at me and the terror in her eyes gradually died out. She shook the sand from her hand, adjusted her cotton headgear, covered down, and said, "I suppose you too want something to eat. Dig away, then. My hands so tired. Over there." She nodded her head in the direction of a booth. "There is bread for certain, and sausage too. That booth is still carrying on business." I began to dig. She, after waiting a little and looking at me, sat down beside me and began to help me. We worked in silence. I cannot say now whether I thought at that moment of a criminal code, of mortality, of professorship, and all of the other things about which, in the opinion of an experienced person, one ought to think every moment of one's life, wishing to keep as close to the truth as possible. I must confess that apparently I was so deeply engaged in digging under the crate that I completely forgot about everything else except this one thing. What could be inside that crate? The evening drew on. The gray, moldy, cold fog grew thicker and thicker around us. The wave roared with a hollower sound than before. and the rain pattered down on the board of that crate more loudly and more frequently. Somewhere or other, the night watchman began springing his rattle. "Has it got a bottom or not?" softly inquired my assistant. I could not understand what she was talking about, and I kept quiet. I said, "Has the grate got a bottom? If it has, we shall try to invade it, to break into it. Here we are digging a trench, and we may, after all, come upon nothing but solid board. How shall we take them off? Better smash the lock. Either regular lock. Good idea, rarely visit the heads of women, but, as you see, they do visit them sometime. I have always valued good ideas, and I have always tried to utilize them as far as possible. Having found the lock, I tug at it and wreck off the whole thing. My accomplice immediately stooped down and wriggled like a serpent to the gaping open, four-cornered cavern of the crate, which she called to me approvingly in a low tone. "You're a brick." Nowadays, a little crumb of praise from a woman is dearer to me than a whole dibbly rat of a man, even though he be more illegible than all the ancient modern orators put together. Then, however, I was less impossible disposed than I am now, and paying no attention to the accompaniment of my comrade, I asked her courteously and anxiously, "Is there anything?" In a metallic tone, she set about calculating our discovery. A basketful bottle, thick fur, a sunshade, an iron pail. All this was uneatable. I felt that my hope had vanished, but suddenly she exclaimed effortlessly, "Aha! Here it is. What? Bread. A loaf. It's only wet. Take it." A loaf flew to my feet, and after herself, my gallant comrade. I have already bitten off a morsel, stuffed it in my mouth, and was chewing it. "Come, give me some too. And we mustn't stay here. Where shall we go?" She looked equably about on all sides. It was dark, wet, and boulderous. "Look, there's an upset canoe yonder. Let us go there." "Let us go there then." And off we set, demolish our booty as we went, filling our mouths with a large portion of it. The rain grew more violent, the rivers roared, but somewhere or other resounded a prolonged mocking whistle, just as if someone great who feared nobody was whistling down all earthly intuition, and along with them this horrid audible wind and its heroes. This whistling made my heart drop painfully, in spite of which I greedily went on eating, and In this respect, the girl walking on my left hand kept even pace with me. "What do they call you?" I asked her. "Why, I know not." "Tatansha," she answered shortly, munching loudly. I stared at her. My heart ached within, and then I stared into the mist before me. It seemed to me that accountable of my destiny was smiling at me coldly. The rain scored the tender skip incessantly, and its soft platter induced thoughts, and the wind whistled as it blew down into the boat battered bottom through the rift, where some loose splints of wood were rattling together. It is quietly depressing sound. The waves of the river were splashing on the shore, and sound is so monstrous and hopeless, just as if they were telling something unbearably dull and heavy, which was boring them into utter disgust. Something from which they wanted to run away, and yet were free to talk about all the same. The sound of the rain blended with their splashing, and a long drawn sigh seemed to be floating above the overturned skiff. The endless laborious sigh of the earth, injured and exhausted by the eternal chase from the bright and warm summer to the cold, misty, and damp autumn. The wind blew continuously over the desolate shore and the foamy river, blew and sang a metallic songs. Our position beneath the shelter of the skiff was utterly devoid of comfort. It was narrow and damp. Tiny cold drops of rain dribbled through the damaged bottom. Gusts of wind penetrated. We sat in quiet and shivered with cold. I remembered that I wanted to go to sleep. Natasha leaned her back against the hump of the boat and curled herself up in a tiny ball, embracing her knees with her hands, and resting her chin upon them. She stared doggedly at the river with wide open eyes. On a pale patch of her face they seemed immense because of the blue marks below them. She never moved, and this immobility of silence, I felt it, gradually produce within me the terror of my neighbor. I wanted to talk to her, but I knew not how to begin. It was she herself who spoke. "What a cursed thing life is!" she exclaimed plainly, abstractly, and in a tone with deep conviction. But this was no compliment. In these words there was too much of an indifference for a compliment. This simple soul thought according to her understanding thoughts, and proceeded a to form a certain conclusion that which she expressed aloud, and which I could not use for fear constructively myself. Therefore I was silent, and she, as if she had not noticed me, continued to sit there immovable. Even if we're crooked, what then? Natasha began again, this time quietly and reflectively, and still there was not one note of compliment in her words. It was plain that this person, in the course of her reflection on life, was regarding her own case, and had simply used her own expression. The clearness of this line of thoughts was sad and painful to me, and I felt that if I kept silent any longer, I was really bound to weep, and it would have been shameful to have done this before a woman, especially as if she was not weeping herself. I resolved to speak to her. "Who was it that knocked you about?" I asked. For the moment I could not think of anything more sensible or more delicate. "Pacha did it all," she answered in a dull, level tone. "And who is he?" "My lover. He was a baker." "Did he beat you often?" "Whenever he was drunk he beat me. Often." And suddenly, turning towards me, she began to talk about herself, Pacha, and our mutual relationship. "He was a baker, with red moustaches, and played very well on the banjo. He came to see her and greatly pleased her, for he was a merry chap, and wore nice clean clothes. He had a vest which cost 15 rupees, and boots with dress tops. For these reasons she had fallen in love with him, and he became her creditor. And when he became her creditor, he made it his business to take away from her the money which her other friends gave to her from Bonbon. And getting drunk on this money, he would fall to beating her, but that would have been nothing if he hadn't also begun to run after other girls before her very eyes. Now, wasn't that an insult? I am not worse than the others. Of course, that meant that he was laughing at me. The blackguard. The day before yesterday, I asked leave of my mistress to go out for a bit. Went to him, and there I found Dinshkus sitting beside him, drunk, and he too was half sea over. I said, "You scumbag, you!" and he gave me a thorough hiding. He kicked me and dragged me by the hair, but that was nothing to what came after. He spoiled everything I had on, left me just as I am now. How could I appear before my mistress? He spoiled everything, my dress and my jacket too. It was quite a new one. I gave a fiver for it and tore my handkerchief from my head. Oh Lord, what will become of me now? She suddenly whined in a miserable, overstrained voice. The wind howled and became ever colder and more brutal. Again my teeth began to dance up and down, and she huddled up to avoid the cold, pressed as closely to me as she could, so that I could see the gleam of her eyes through the darkness. What wretches all you men are! I burned you all in an oven. I cut you in pieces. If any one of you was dying, I spit in his mouth, and not pitying him a bit. Mean skunks! You wheedle and wheedle, you wag your tails like creaky dogs, and we fools gave ourselves up to you, and it was all up with us. Immediately you trample us under feet, miserable loafer. She curses us up and down, but there was no vulture, no malice, no hatred of these miserable loafer in her cursing that I could hear. The tone of her language by no means corresponded with its self-matter, for it was calm enough. The gamut of her voice was terribly poor, yet all this made a stronger impression on me than the most convincing Boston speeches, of which I have read a good many and which I still read to this day. And this, you see, was because of the agony of a dying person is much more natural and violent than the most minute and description of death. I felt very wretched, more from cold than from the words of my neighbor. I groaned softly and ground my teeth. Almost at the same moment I felt two little arms around me. One of them touched my neck, and the other upon my face. At the same time, an anxious, gentle, friendly voice uttered a question. "What y'all you?" I was ready to believe that someone else was asking me this, and not Natasha, who had just declared that all men were scumbags, and expressed for their destruction. But she was, and now she began speaking quickly, hurriedly. "What ails you, E? Are you cold? Are you frozen? Ah, what a one you are, sitting there so quiet like a little owl. Why, you should have told me long ago that you were cold. Come, lie on the ground, stretch yourself out, and I will lie there. How's that? Now, put your arms around me. Tighter. How's that? You shall be warm very soon now, and then we'll lie back to back. The night will pass so quickly. See if it won't, I say. Have you too been drinking? Turns out of your place, E. It doesn't matter." And she comforted me. She encouraged me. May I be strive to cure. What a world of irony was in this single fact for me. Just imagine. Here I was, usually accompanied at this very time for the destiny of humanity, thinking of the reorganization of a social system, a political revolution, reading all sorts of David's wise book, whose profundity was certainly unfoundable by their very authors. At this very time, I say, I was trying with all my might to make of myself a potent anti-social force. It even seemed to me that I had partially accomplished my object. Anyhow, at this time in my idea about myself, I had gotten so far as to recognize that I have an exclusive right to exist, that I had the necessary greatness to deserve to live my life, and now was fully accomplished to play a great historical part, and a woman was now warming me with her body, a stretched, battered, hunted creature who had no place and no value in life, and who I have never thought of helping till she helped me herself, and who I really would not have known how to help in any way, even if the thoughts of it had acquired to me. Ah, I was ready to think that all this was happening to me in a dream, in a disagreeable and oppressive dream. But ugh, it was impossible for me to think that, for the cold drops of rain was dripping down upon me. The woman was pressing close to me. Her warm breath was fanning my face, and despite the slight odor of Vodka, it did me good. The wind howled and raged. The rain smote upon the skiff. The waves splashed, and both of us embracing each other, nevertheless shivered with cold. All this was only too real. I am certain that nobody ever dreamed such a horrid dream as that of reality. But Natasha was talking all the time of something or other, talking kindly and sympathy, as only women can talk. Beneath the influence of her voice and kindly words, a little fire began to burn up within me, and something inside my heart stalled to consequences. Then tears tore from my eyes like hailstorm, washing away from my heart much that was evil, much that was stupid, much sorrow and dirt which had fastened upon it before the night. Natasha comforted me. Come, come. That will do, little one. Don't take on. That will do. God will give you another chance. You will right yourself and stand in your proper place again. And it will be all right. And she kept kissing me. Many kisses did she give me, burning kisses. And all for nothing. Those were the first kisses from a woman that had ever been bestowed upon me. And they were the best kisses, too. For all the kisses cost me frightfully dear, and really gave me nothing at all in exchange. Come, don't think on so, bunny one. I'll manage for you tomorrow, if you cannot find a place. Her quiet, persuasive whispering sounded in my ear as if it came through a dream. There we lay till dawn, and when dawn came we crept from behind the stove and went into town. Then we took friendly leave of each other and never met again, although for a happy year I searched in every hole and corner for that kind Natasha with whom I spent the autumn night just described. If she be already dead, and well for her if it were so, may she rest in peace. And if she be alive, still I say, peace to her soul, and may the consciousness of her fall never enter her soul, for that would be a fruitless suffering if life is to be lived.